late night, they ain't getting no rest. Work so hard, people think I'm obsessed. Cream at the crop, won't settle for no less. Headed to the top, arena so focused. Yeah, gorilla of the jungle, I've been beating on my chest. I learned from the struggle, it was all just a test.
Hey guys, and welcome back. So we're going to jump into the altcoins now. So we're going to take a look at Bitcoin dominance. We're going to look at Ethereum, US dollar, and Bitcoin valuations, TOTAL3 and others dominance, get an idea of what's going on in the altcoin market here. So flipping over, first chart we're going to start on here is Bitcoin dominance. Some things I do initially want to point out to you is we have this bearish divergence. So I've marked that in this red upsloping trend line. Same thing that we see here on the MACD. So bearish divergence of price action and the MACD, so that's that lower highs, higher highs on the price action, lower highs on the oscillator. We see here kind of our momentum slowing down a little bit here with the positive blue vortex line coming back down. We also see in our DMI, we're curling down, we're putting in lower highs, kind of that downtrending on the DMI. And we also see on the very low time frame, even further bearish divergence. So these lows here, lower highs on the RSI. And if we look at the price action, we're getting higher highs on the price action. So bearish divergence on the higher time frame, bearish divergence on the lower time frame, losing momentum on the kind of daily chart here in terms of our vortex indicator and our directional movement index. That being said, this still is a definitive uptrend, but we're kind of in this rising wedge pattern, which can be a bearish pattern. So expecting that to eventually break down, although we could push up to 66%. You can see massive resistance here in the Lux Algo sell order blocks from about 62 to 66%. So that's the upper bands of my kind of target for now in the near term. If we hit 66%, we need to really be careful because that's going to be essentially almost a breakout of this trend line here, in which case, you know, we are really looking bad for our altcoins if that happens. You know, if we see something like this, price might just come back, retest this trend line and keep trending up. Like, there's nothing to say that that can't happen, especially if Bitcoin continues to kind of gain the focus of large capital as it has so far. It's kind of not my base case. I do expect there to be kind of some breakdown in dominance eventually, but we do have support, and for now we're in this uptrending price action. The bearish divergence doesn't necessarily mean that things need to reverse right away or in the immediate future. It just means that the trend is slowing down that strength, and we could be coming to an area where we start to find that major resistance, potentially a cycle top. And we also see, you know, all kinds of resistance here. So we had this trend line, sorry, excuse me, we had this this trend line back over here, and we see dating back to excuse me, 2024. So from here, you know, acting as support all through here and then acting as resistance. So now that is still our wedge that we're stuck in. But we're above our VRVP point of control. We're above all our key moving averages. We're in uptrending price action in terms of the structure. So Bitcoin dominance continues in that trend. So for now, you know, alt's in that downtrend, but we're in that area where we really need to kind of start taking a better look, see what's going on the low time frame. So if we take a look at the 12-hour, going a little bit lower, we can essentially see that bearish cross of the MACD. So we tried to get back over lower highs, bearish divergence. That's what I talked about, bearish divergence on the RSI, losing a little bit of momentum, although it is kind of still neutral here. But on the vortex, that bearish momentum picking up. So if we take a look at our weekly here on Bitcoin dominance, let's see how those look, and then see kind of to the prior cycles. So we got here RSI, MACD is just curling over, so slowing down. RSI is curling over, losing that momentum here. So the DMI positive line just breaking below that ADX line and starting to see that red vortex negative line curling up. So although it is slowing down on the daily, looking a little bit weaker, there could still be more room on the weekly to run a little bit. We're going to have to continue following that. We're going to flip over to Ethereum right now, but basically what dominance is saying is we could be near that topping range, but we don't have confirmation of it yet. So if you're entering alts, just be ready to hold if it goes into a further downtrend. Waiting for confirmation on the charts ideally is better than kind of just buying into those falling knives. So I'm going to show you a couple examples here. Ethereum for one. We're looking here, in terms of our momentum indicators, pretty neutral-ish on the Vortex and the DMI. RSI here kind of just flatlined, and the MACD also just flatlined. So in terms of the indicators on the daily, it's not looking too interesting. We are at a pretty key level of support. So right at this 786 Fibonacci from the cycle low to high, which acted as the cycle low for Ethereum last cycle. We're stuck under this down sloping trend line. We're also stuck currently under all of our moving averages. So we're stuck under the 8-day and the 21-day, our short-term moving averages, and we're well below our 50-day, our 200-day, and our 200-week moving average. We've got all the sell order blocks up here. We've got horizontal resistance. We've got VRVP resistance. So Ethereum right now, although it looks like it's trying to break out, it's just holding the lows so far. We want to see this continue this price action, getting above at first our key, like our low time frame moving averages. So we want to see this uptrending price action continue, higher highs, higher lows, before we're able to go and attack some of these upper targets here. But continuing this breakout move in uptrending price action is going to be key. We're not really seeing kind of the major buying that I wanted to see right here. We actually saw a lot of sellers come in and capitulate, but we are getting that kind of bullish divergence as well on Ethereum US dollar here. So that is something to note. That being said, is it the right time to buy? For me personally, no. Don't have confirmation even on the daily yet, let alone the weekly, and it's just not enough, not decisive enough. The indicators don't look bullish enough, and we're just stuck under too much resistance right now with too much uncertainty in the markets. I would rather just look at trading Bitcoin again and then kind of save that risk for another time. We're going to flip over to ETH Bitcoin here. So coming back to this key level of support, there's not much more support left for Ethereum Bitcoin. We've got these two levels of buy order blocks, but we also see our sell orders are stacked right away. So basically people looking to kind of sell out right here and buy in right here. That's what I say when we're in no man's land. The indicators neutral-ish here on the directional movement index and the vortex indicator. We did come from deeply oversold territory. That being said, look back here. This is the last time we were at this level of oversold territory. And this is a prime example of why you can't solely focus on one indicator. If you're just looking at the RSI and the MACD, although it was deeply oversold here, look what happened after this. So we came to oversold territory. We put in our lows, got a little bit of a bounce, a 15% move, just enough to trick people into thinking, this is the bottom, the lows are in, we're going up from here. They buy in, and ultimately what happens? We just bleed from this down to the current price. That's down another 53%. So if you're investing just based off of the daily RSI or MACD and you're not paying attention to the actual trend indicators that I talk about, you might have bought into this and then ate a 53% downside drop. So that's why we kind of look at price action, we look at indicators, we look at moving averages, and just give us a really good picture of what's going on in the market. So we can see here, yeah, we're in deeply oversold territory, but look at the momentum indicators, guys. The trend right here was inherently bearish with that DMI negative line dominantly on top of the ADX line, which was above 25, signaling a strong downwards trend and keeping that positive line negative. Also with the vortex indicator, also noticeably, if you just paid attention to the vortex indicator here, this would have stopped you from buying into this dip because it didn't make sense. The bearish momentum was still favored despite being oversold. That's what I say. RSI and MACD are lagging. We can remain oversold or overbought for extended periods of time while price continues to downtrend or continues to rise. So that's why I say it's not enough to kind of look at a chart, just the RSI and MACD, and make a decision. You need to put everything together that I have been teaching, that I focus on. So again, I like to focus on the RSI and the MACD. That tells me if something is overbought or oversold. I use the directional movement index and the vortex indicator to tell me, okay, what is the trend, what is the strength of the trend, and when is it likely a reversal point? So the vortex does a good job kind of plotting reversal points. The DMI does a good job kind of plotting the trend strength, and then the RSI MACD tell us, is it a good time to buy or a good time to sell, kind of just based on the overheated nature of the asset. And then our moving averages kind of confirm that to confirm our trends as well as our price action. Also, it lets us know what way stuff is trending, and then we make that decision there. So ETH Bitcoin, although it is at a high level of support, we're just stuck in this downwards price action, falling knife status, not interested in buying into it until we get that definitive bottom. I kind of pointed out in the prior cycle here, again, it's not going to be a V-shaped recovery. Nothing rarely ever goes straight up or down. What we saw in the prior cycle is that it actually took a long time for it to bottom, and the difference in price from the entry was minimal. So right here was the initial bottom. By the time they put in that higher low, the price difference is only about 20%, and so this is kind of what I talk about. So, oh yeah, 20%, that's a big difference when it comes to buying. It is, but think about it, guys. If you started buying up here and you're out of cash by the time we get to here, then you can't take advantage of the low area down here. So that's when I talk about wealth preservation first, because you want to be able to take advantage of the generational buying opportunities. If you're DCAing all the way down this trend, you're out of money here, and then you're just stuck and waiting. You don't want to be stuck waiting underwater for that to come back up, because then by the time it gets to your cost basis, you might just want to cut your position and cut those losses, and then the market's going to continue punishing you. So that's what we do rather than buying the falling knife. That's when I say in a downtrend, use a dynamic DCA based on risk if you want to DCA into the market, and then look for that technical confirmation to really enter the market more aggressively with your sideline cash, and then ride that to the upside. So for now, Ethereum Bitcoin continues in its falling knife status, not interested in buying into it. We'll wait and see. It's going to give us that opportunity to enter. The price is going to be potentially a little bit higher, or it could even be lower and give us a better opportunity. So it's all about preserving capital, maximizing your buying power, and capitalizing on the macro trends. So we're flipping over to TOTAL3 here. TOTAL3 actually looks a little bit better than Ethereum Bitcoin, although we can see when we zoom right into our vortex indicator that the bearish momentum is being a little bit favored here. That could change, but we're going to have to continue following it. The DMI here just kind of neutral. Looks like it's in that consolidation pattern. So when you see kind of all three lines squeezed together close, that tells me that we're just consolidating and getting ready for the next move. Whether that's a breakout or a breakdown move, we're not going to know until it happens. So we're going to be prepared for either outcome. This is what I'm watching for on TOTAL3. What we could get, we've got our higher low on the daily. We've got a subsequent higher high and another higher low. If we break out here, I could see us coming up, at least back testing this 50-day moving average here, but potentially between the 50-day and this sell order block, obviously nothing goes straight up. I think we're going to come back, retest the support down here. So this is the entry that I'm looking for. This is the better risk-adjusted entry, waiting for the breakout back test, entering on that confirmed higher low structure, and then stop loss below support and riding that to the upside. So that's my plan with TOTAL3. We also see that we're getting a bit of a bullish divergence here on the MACD. So again, the downwards trend price action could be slowing down. Is the lows in? I have no idea. We won't know until it's confirmed on the high time frame. But for now, TOTAL3 looking better than Ethereum and better than ETH Bitcoin. So could offer some opportunities there in some of the larger blue chip altcoins. But again, I'm waiting for that breakout back test, entering on the higher low, stop loss below support and riding that up. And then others dominance, we see here getting a bit of same thing, bullish divergence here, price action, RSI. The momentum indicators actually look a little bit better, so they're continuing to point towards each other on the vortex. Same with the DMI, we've got that negative line curling up, the positive line down, or sorry, positive line up, negative line down, and ADX line starting to curl over, and deeply oversold territory on the MACD and RSI. So we could see potential relief for others. That's kind of the smaller altcoins, but we're also kind of in more bearish price action. So while the indicators look a little bit better, the price action kind of looks a little bit worse in my opinion. We did have a lot of buying in through here, which was nice to see that big run up. So I again expect some sort of relief rally from altcoins. You know, obviously nothing goes straight up or down. We retest those levels. Even if we're coming back testing that 50-day moving average, you know, that's still going to be a decent little move. Like, you're still looking at a 10% move just into the 50-day and that upsloping trend line. But we're watching this. We want to see continued higher highs, higher lows, really building out that price action. But the same thing kind of with the other ones. Although the indicators look all right, the price action is slightly more bearish for now. We don't have confirmation, so I'm kind of sitting on my hands with alts for now, focusing on Bitcoin, looking at those swing trade opportunities that I mentioned. So either that breakout back test here, looking at taking profits up towards 92,000, and then let Ethereum do its thing, let the alts do their thing. TOTAL3 looks the best in terms of the three, so if I was focusing on anything right now, I would kind of be looking at this breakout move for the blue chip altcoins. Or others dominance, you know, could be putting in a bit of a double bottom. Sorry, it's kind of a slightly, not quite a double bottom, just a very slightly lower low here. But we are stuck under more of the moving averages, more resistance. So I think in the event of strength or a breakout, TOTAL3 is kind of primed to do a little bit better than others dominance. Others just has more resistance it needs to break before it's going to be able to get to some of those higher targets. Ethereum, Bitcoin right now just remains kind of a falling knife. So not interested in Ethereum, more interested in TOTAL3 swing trades potentially if we get this breakout. Otherwise, look for price to come back to this support zone down here, and that's going to be the next swing trade opportunity. And for others dominance, just continuing to follow this. You know, we're still just kind of in bearish price actions, so not too interested in our small cap alts at this time. So that's pretty much it for today. Covered Bitcoin, we covered the altcoins, so thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.